everyone. How's everyone doing? Good. Good. Awesome. We got Facebook Live with us, so please be rowdy. Awesome. Oh, my type of crowd, my type of crowd. So welcome to the Fika Session. For you guys who haven't been here before, I'm just going to give you like a short introduction to what it is. So as an artist, I've done lots of showcases around London, and it came to a point where I felt that the artists weren't getting enough kind of exposure as the people who they were and what they stood for. So the Fika was an initial idea to kind of give an artist and its audience a deeper understanding for who they were actually listening to, and so that's how it started. So the Fika Session has a Swedish word, which is fika, and it means to have a coffee with someone and have a chat. So you put your phones away, and then you sit there and you have a proper chat about everything. And it's really about communication, where it takes you from your everyday and it gives you a minute to focus on what's right in front of you. So with that in mind, the Fika Session is a community platform for creative professionals to exchange ideas and to network. So today's topic is David and Goliat and how to get their attention. And when I say their, I mean everyone from major labels to MPs to decision makers across the world. I think I picked the topic because I'm a massive Amnesty International fan and member since forever, and I guess I know some of the benefits of kind of working together as a community and being able to affect decision makers around the world. So, but before we get into all of this, can you please just tell everyone who you are and what you do and all the loveliness about you?
Hello, my name is Cindy, aka Handsome Family. I DJ and promote with my husband Chris, who can't be here today. It's very difficult because I think I put my hands in a lot of pies, but a lot of people here who are my friends, some of them would know me from DJing, promoting, being a co-founder of a lifestyle music store that I'm no longer a part of, but I'm very proud to have sort of started off, called United 80 in Brixton. I also got very rattled 2 years ago about the state of hyper-gentrification around the world, but because I have had a lot of base in Brixton, Brixton became a central theme of that, and we managed to set up in a very short space of time a movement called Reclaim Brixton, which in 3 weeks had 4,000 people turn up on Windrush Square in anger about the state of the current kind of climate of austerity and many, many things. So yeah, I have, as I said, I have my hands in many pies, and I still hold a 9 to 5, so it's not that deep, but this is who I am, so very pleased to meet you.
I am Heidi. We have gotten this, a slight introduction to you, but yes, please. I sing a lot of different kinds of music, and I think but I'm just thinking because Sydney's, she's like a big voice. I was just going to say that music is the message that I know how to talk about all through.
You say a lot on Facebook as well.
Don't tell everybody about that. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, music.
Yes, but also, can you tell, besides just music, like what do you do? Where do you tour with Cinematic Orchestra? Do you have a great platform?
Yeah, I tour with Cinematic Orchestra and quite a few other bands. I've been touring with a few different acts over the years, and getting to meet lots of different people and hear lots of different musicians, and just seeing how music can affect change, and not just affect change, but just touch people on a personal level, and that kind of inspiration. So I think I've been lucky to be doing this for a while and seeing loads of amazing people. We were just at North Sea Jazz Festival, Cindy and I, and getting to see, you know, all these amazing artists, some spiritual stuff happening on stage, and it speaks to people in different ways. So I think music is a very good medium.
Absolutely. Right.
Pick any.
Mic confusion. Hi, my name's Chris Young, and I run a company called Nurture Music Limited, which is an independent management and promotions company. It's been set up for about 12 years, and before that I worked for major labels, for Virgin Records and V2. I had a label set up within V2, and I signed Bugs in the Attic and Sawney, and that sort of whole broken beat thing was kind of my thing. And 2005 I left the label, set up my own company, which started promoting acts for the BBC. My background is in radio and promotions, and I stick with music, Black Origins, lots of reggae, soul, hip-hop and jazz. And I've looked after labels like Blue Note, Mr. Bongos. I'm working with Protégé at the moment, and soul artists like Sean Escoffrey and Tony Monmel. I do a lot of electronic stuff as well. I managed Subtract for 10 years when he was Aaron Jerome before that, and messing around the jazz scene. Look, Cecilia over here, and she still likes me, so here we go. And yeah, so it's independence and radio and BBC and exposure and management and blah blah and industry and all that stuff. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Yes. So what is your experience with getting your voice heard, with dealing with councils or labels or whatever?
It's been bad, straight up. I wanted to be clear so that I would say that, yes. And that's kind of why I've been motivated to do what I've always done, which is to be very DIY, do it yourself, pick up and set something up and then see where things happen. My experience with my husband, our career started through pure frustration. Maya Angelou sort of touched on anger being used as a positive. I can't, memorise her quote, but it's a famous one. And I've been perpetually angry, to be quite honest. I love you guys. You're, every artist, everyone mentioned, including yourself, as A&R, I'm madly passionate about. But the only reason why I'm here is because I was never seeing an avenue for the things that I wanted to see out there. So actually, it's kind of motivated me. I am quite cynical. I'm very sure that there are some decent people in this game, but as a self-starter, asking me, how I've been sort of, what I've come across, I've come across not very great things, frankly speaking. So that's my answer. It might not be what one would have expected, but in a weird, twisted way, it's actually inspired and motivated. I would never have decided to sell music as a DJ if I wasn't frustrated that the artists that I was loving and listening to were being overlooked, and were telling me ridiculous stories about bad experiences with management or venues, or telling me they were scraping when I've just heard, not saying Heidi particularly, but you hear a voice like Heidi's, you're thinking, her mortgage is covered, surely. You know what I mean? Like, standard. But that wasn't what was happening. So I just had to self-start, and that's where I am. So that's my answer.
Yeah, great.
I kind of agree with a lot of what Cindy had to say. I mean, I've known Cindy over 15 years, where she was putting on little DJ nights with her and her husband in Brixton, and she'd bring me down to come and sing, and it's all been very much friends supporting friends and helping to encourage us to keep going in this game. And I don't really have the experience of some big greater power coming down and taking your hand and helping you up. I think it's been, for all of us, Khadija and everyone that you as well, it's been
Jazz Refreshed.
Yeah, it's been very much like everybody giving a helping hand to other artists, giving a little platform to friends. Well, Cindy was one of the people that I mentioned, singing at her shop outside in Brixton, at United 80, just every opportunity, people putting their own money out there to have live music, to fund tours, things like that. And that's been my experience. I mean, like when I went on tour with Ty, he paid for all the tours himself. Everything I've done has been very much like that. And I think that in terms of getting attention with record companies, my own experience with the people who I've worked with is they make the music, they do it from the heart, and they do it with the inspiration of their life and natural way of making music and creativity. And then people might show some interest afterwards. I don't know many stories of people going tuk, hey, look, check out, I've got some potential, and someone going here, and then it actually succeeding. Maybe they could get a record deal, but nothing really could happen. I mean, there are stories, but the majority of the people that I know that have actually made something happen, they've started it themselves.
It's been organic in the sense that it's always come from the heart, and even if you consider it as a documentation, and then if people show interest in it, that's how you build from there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I also
there's a demographic. I don't separate politics from music, but if you look a certain way, myself and Heidi do not look a certain way for the mainstream UK music market today. Perhaps, as an example, that it's not as easy. So you kind of have to know yourself and know how. Maybe if we were some sort of a particular type of look,
there's also a particular sound as well.
Indeed, that would, I'm being very diplomatic, but there are demographics that fall upwards exponentially, and if you happen to fall into that, brilliant. But if you don't, then you've got to realise that you might not get that, oh my god, I found you busking at Piccadilly Circus vibe. It doesn't work that way. And even the girls that okay, so somebody like Katie B, who we all know and love. I remember Katie B hustling. My girl was at every gig, always promoting her CDs, always hustling. And the way they sold her in the industry is that she was discovered. She wasn't. I mean, that girl was grafting 24/7. I like it, so. It isn't how they sell it, but maybe our lovely gentleman will tell us a different thing in a moment. But I just want to say, carry on.
I just want to say that we have a better platform nowadays with the internet to contact people ourselves, and so actually artists don't need a medium to contact the people. They can create great music, put it on video, put it online, and they will get their fans. And when we were talking about the organic thing as well, I just wanted to say that all of us, we learn from each other, and we are like each other's inspiration and mentors. And I think that that's a much better way for acts and music to be written and come out more organic.
Yes, we're going to talk more about that in a second. Chris.
Right. Okay. I think depending on your experience in the industry, everything they said has got a lot of truism to it, but also there's another side to it. And I started off in major labels, and I totally share the frustration they had. I used to sit in Monday morning A&R meetings, and I used to hear, record label priorities, and if Joe Wiley didn't play a record, it stopped being a priority. The next thing was a priority, etc., etc. But the thing is that there is a constant in the industry which I've seen over the years, which is that, and it's what you guys are saying, which is artists who just work at their branding, work at what they do, don't stop doing what they're doing when they get management or labels. They keep pushing, they keep building fan base, whether it's doing it the old style way, or whether it's playing gigs, etc., etc., or whether it's using social media. It is possible to break through, and I can give you lots of examples. There's a band I'm working with at the moment called The Skinks, who are a British reggae, kind of reflecting that new wave 70s ska movement. They're doing it with a sort of modern twist. They've been spending 10 years building fan base in America, all over the world. They haven't flirted with UK media. They've got a huge fan base all over the world. and they're a successful, self-funded business. You know, they're doing really, really well. And I think they've just taken the approach of old school touring, and not being frightened to go around the world, etc., etc. Now, I mean, it's tough. It's expensive. A lot of people want to say no. It's A&R is incredibly umanar, as they call it. Everyone sits on the fence. But there are people like me who have come out of the major labels, formed small independent companies because we believe in small independent artists. My thing is music black origin, and I've crossed over people like Subtract. He was just a young guy working in a record store. He did a remix of Knit and Sawney, and we worked together for 4 or 5 years doing remixes and all sorts of things before he hit upon his formula. We put out an album through BBE, and then he hit this formula, this Subtract formula. We did a clever thing with the media where we pretended he was brand new and all that sort of stuff, and it worked. But people ultimately loved the music. And then he worked really hard. He toured with Sampha. You know, we went all over the world. I went all over the world with him. You know, and we worked really, really hard, and it paid off. But you know, there were a lot. Last year there was Protege had a record called Who Knows, which has been around for 18 months, 2 years, on various little independents, been building up online. Mr. Bongo signed the record, they gave it to me, I took it into radio. No, it was a real eye and needle thing, but we crossed it into Radio 1, which is a really rare, difficult thing to do, but we did. And then after 6 months of it being on Radio 1's playlist, we signed the record, the remix of that record, to Warner Brothers, but we maintained the independent scene, and it stayed on the radio for another 6 months. In fact, it was the 6th most played record on Radio 1 last year, and it was an independent record. So and you know, I also had looked after Sean. I'm not just saying this, look at me, but it is possible. It is possible. Sean Scoffrey, 12th most played record on Radio 2 last year. He signed to Dome Records, put out 2 albums with Dome. Peter Robinson down in the South Coast puts out amazing soul music.
How do we clone you?
But he's just signed to Decca, a major label. The point I'm getting to anyway is that you've got to build it to a point where the majors will go, okay, we've got something we want, but you've got something that you, on your own terms, can go, right. You know, we can negotiate this deal on a relatively even platform. And the majors aren't bad people. They've got money, and it's just you've got to use them in the right way. It's like everybody, you know. So it's just, yeah.
But then my frustration, and stop me because you know I can talk a lot. So, but if you're saying that,
why did you think I asked you to be on the panel? Besides your excellence, of course.
If you're saying that you know, work hard, build your platform, what is the purpose of the major? That's where I'm at now. I almost feel like cutting you out. I respect every artist you've talked about, I love. So thank you very much, because I've got all them tracks that all Aaron Jerome, Noam used to go to If Music, the record label, the record shop we're talking about, John Pitt, I know. But you are unique, I'm going to say that. What is the point of artists doing all that the work? Are they not being the labels, the A&Rs themselves?
Yeah, I mean, look, listen, that's why I mentioned the Skins first of all. They are the label, they are the A&R, they're everything. They're self-contained, they're unmanaged, they use a small management company to do their administrative stuff. You know, it's horses for courses. There are lots of people out there, there's lots of independent people out there who love music and who survive because they cross independent artists over. That doesn't mean that, you know, all our successes tend to come with those artists who've built their profile up over many years. I'm working with Holly Cook at the moment, who's an amazing female reggae artist who I've worked her last 2-3 albums, and you know, she's moved labels each time, and we've kept, you know, playlists at 6 Music and Radio 2, so you know, it keeps her profile up, it keeps her touring and all that sort of stuff. So it's about utilising people like me to enhance your brand, but ultimately you start that process going. You start that. You know, whenever people come to me and ask me to manage them or help them out, that's the first thing I say is, look, where are you at with your brand? Where are you at with your fan base? Throwing a load of money at me, although that's quite nice, is, you know, it's not the guarantee that you're going to have success. But I do have a lot of success because I do work with high quality artists. 99% of my business is independent. 99% at least. So I rely on independent artists to succeed. So it is possible. It really is possible, but it's not easy.
Yeah, so I was actually going to wait with this question, but we have a couple of key people like Nick Lewis and there you are, Justin from Just Refreshed. I would like to get your opinions, and anyone who has a question or want to butt into the discussion, please just let me know, give me a little hey. So I guess, because we've already started touching on it, like alternatives. I've read up on quite a lot of like different discussion groups and about like how artists today are looking at like what to do, you know, and I guess labels are the ones that have both the funding and they have like an umbrella of lots of different, they have PR, they got radio pluggers, they have A&Rs and management, they have like everything under the same roof, right?
Yeah, but labels aren't the be-all and end-all, you know.
No. I'm not.
I mean, they're important. They're very important. But I mean, it's a lot of artists can get funding through PRS and BPI. There's lots of funding opportunities out there. But the key is to build your brand, have an awareness of what you are, what you're doing, and then make yourself appealing to labels. And then it's at different stages of labels. So with Protégé, he was part of an American distribution company, then he signed to Mr. Bongos in Brighton, who used to have a shop in Soho, and you know, then it came into my orbit, and then we got it signed on to Warner's. But we use each stage, we maintain that independence of artists. So it's utilising the industry where you can, and you know, trying to get them to engage with you and your brand and not lose sight of that when you sign. I mean, pop artists is very different, you know, that gets manufactured from the start, but for real artists, it's important that they maintain their brand image, their musical ethos, the quality, and you don't have to sell out to do well. Robert Glasper, Blue Note, Jose James, all these artists.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have fantastic careers, do very, very well.
So a lot of people talk about influencers right now, and I think, you know, Cindy's an influencer, Nick Lewis is, and Justin is one, and you know, we're talking about, they talk about like organic build, listening sessions to build up to kind of communicate with the people who actually favors your music. You talk about that you can have, that you invite people to like listening sessions for new music, for example, so that you have the key people who like your music to actually come and hear it first. And how do you know how hard it is to get on playlists and stuff like that?
I mean, that's what people pay me to do, you know, is to get them on playlists. And there's a process. The BBC, we're so lucky in the UK we've got the BBC, because the BBC is a fantastic organisation. It punches well above its weight internationally, and we have different radio stations to represent different areas. So we've got one extra for young urban black music, we have Radio 1, which is representing that 15 to 24-year-old demographic, and we have 6 Music for an alternative spirit thing, and Radio 2 for the older end of the audience. But there's always somewhere you can go. Radio 1 is the toughest playlist to get on, and it does require an awful lot of layering up and statistical analysis on your side. But ultimately, if you're going to cross over to any of these stations, it's about listening to those stations and understanding what they represent. So, you know, I get artists like Mungo's Hi-Fi and left field acts like Hen Pollux on 6 Music, for example. They've all had recent playlists. Then I've had a guy called Joel Culpepper, who is Lauren Burns Record of the Week, and that puts him into 6 Music's radar. Just spoken about Protégé in Radio 1. Holly Cook went on Radio 2's playlist today. So I mean, it's not like it's impossible, you can't do it. It's just a case of having someone like myself who understands media strategy, maybe with a label, maybe without. You know, I don't always work with artists who have labels. I work with artists, sometimes who have no managers, no nothing, you know. And I can help, like the Hen Pollux, I've got them, their own PR company, distribution, you know. There's a lot I can, because of my experience, that I can do on that side. But yeah, playlists are very much an important thing, because it doesn't necessarily drive sales straight away, but it highlights things to the industry. And that's why Spotify has become so powerful now, because they are, all the people at the top end of Spotify are ex-Radio 1 people, and it's the same model. It's playlists within different genres of music, and getting on those playlists attracts a certain number of streams, which then attracts, you know, other sides of the media. So radio and Spotify bounce off each other, as does other online platforms, Facebook, blah blah blah. I could go on about it for days, but yeah, that's the basics of it.
I saw when I was going to my daughter's nursery a poster, which was, I don't even know who the artist was, but I pointed to my husband and said, look at that poster, what do you see? And he looked at it and he was like, oh, she's moaning again. And actually all it was the artist, say it was Heidi Vogel, the track, and then it was like stream on Spotify, and I was like, have you ever seen that? That's bizarre. Like, there's no buy, the word buy isn't into it, there's no, and we all know about the politics of streaming for the artists. So that was interesting, but just sort of like segueing into the idea of what Chris was talking about, and you know, what you need to do to get onto the big players. Stuff the big players, man. I'm sorry, with respect, I love you, but you're like I just don't understand it. The big players are asking you to do all their work for them, as far as I'm concerned. I'm talking about true independence. I've seen Justin and Adam single-handedly run Jazzfest for 12 years. They've run, you know, how many weeks a year? Let's just break it down to even 40, not even 50 odd. And they've had live music, quality, bar a few, 2 maybe, in 12 years. We know they are. We are going to talk about that. And you know, with the stealth and whatnot, you know, they're doing mighty things and doing international Afropunk, Paris Afropunk this next week. So for me, I'm not intrigued by this, especially when you're coming from the broken diaspora. If you're not coming from a Eurocentric point of view, where you're not necessarily represented, I touched lightly on it. I'm just not interested in hearing about what you need to do to scrape your way into the pockets of it.
And I think that's why I'm having this discussion, because I want to flip it. I want to talk about what can we do to actually get that attention.
Well, the first thing is to not think that those people are as important as they have made themselves to be. Yeah. Because ultimately we need to start to put a value into, you guys are the creators, the content are coming from a wholly diverse crew of people, and the moment we spend our time sort of talking about how many YouTube hits, these are all corporations at the end of the day. We're using them now. You know, I'm using Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, you know, he's my homie, I'm always posting on Facebook. But actually, we're using it to get our own voices. As I say, going back to something political, in 3 weeks we managed to get 4,000 people into Windrush Square to change something, and that was in 3 weeks, and that was between me having a newborn and 2 other girls, women, actually putting something together on a social media platform. I am not interested in constantly begging for the scraps at the table. Solange talked about the seat, why she calls that album the seat at the table. There's a lot to talk about, but we're not going to have all night to do that. I respect the conversation, but the conversation is not for us, so I'm not as interested.
But not that conversation. I want to have the conversation
where let's do that. You asked the questions, but I'm just saying that as much as I listened to how you get into Radio 2 and the playlist, and it's all a bit lazy from my point of view. You know, why are these people having to kill themselves to get those on the playlist? Isn't that kind of warped? Isn't it for the listeners to be able to dictate that? Why is it just a few, probably men, let's be real, probably white, would be real, making those decisions on a complete diverse community? I'm not interested in that.
No, I would just say this, I don't disagree with you in the point of view that you can do a lot yourself, and look, playlists are just one aspect of the music industry. It's not a be all and end all, but I mean, it's a vehicle. You know, the BBC is a good vehicle. It's a quality vehicle. It produces.
Oh, but we had the pay review where women, the highest paid woman was Claudia Winkleman, 450k a year, which is still obscene, and the highest paid male was Chris Evans at 2.5 million. I mean, you're telling me the BBC's a good vehicle, and there's two beautiful ladies right here.
There's nothing perfect.
Okay.
At least they published. At least they
this
published
is what
it,
I'm
so
talking about.
We can have the debate now because they published it, which I think is a good thing. You know, and I mean, we're lucky in this country that we've got a body like the BBC. And I don't work for the BBC, but I respect them as an organisation. But nothing's perfect, and I think all I can say is personally, I've seen artists who have nothing and then are doing very, very well. Not just because of me, but because of the system. The system's way beyond perfect. But I also feel it's good to have an independent attitude and to do things the way you feel right. And there is the problem really is there's so many boxes to tick now. You've got to tick social media boxes. Well, not got to, but it's all out there to tick. So it can become very diluted. It can be quite difficult to punch through all these things. And you know, sometimes it's a playlist that punches you through. Sometimes it's a gig with, you build fan base. Whatever it is, it's always that trying to punch up to the next level if you want to increase your profile and be successful as an artist. And it is a big issue. It's a big conversation. But
yeah.
I have a question for Chris.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can I just quickly comment on? Is that I think I would like to move the conversation into let's look at artists that actually are doing super well, and I want to touch on what Heidi said about the community and us actually learning from each other and supporting each other, and so I think that is the way forward for maybe, if you want to call it, independent artists that know that I will never get played. I mean, you did get me played on Radio 1, but that was thanks to Chris Phillips. But it's like, I think let's not chase. There are great people out there like Chris, like Nick Lewis, like Justin, that actually put really great independent artists on and brings them to a bigger audience. So just a side note, and then yes.
So hi everyone, my name is Linton. I'm not a musician, I'm a choreographer. Thanks for having me, this is fantastic. I have a question for Chris, and I've been listening to the debate between yourself and Cindy, is it? And it's really interesting because it seems like what Cindy is saying is, I am the artist, I have the talent, you can't do that. So essentially, well, I've got to do your job for you because you can't do what I can do, however, I can do what you can do and what I can do. So my question is, let's say you trade in music of black origin, let's say you had a particular sound you wanted to find for whatever reason. Where would you want to find that? How would you go about finding it? Let's say you had a particular sound you wanted to find. How would you find that? What do you do to actually access that? I'm going to go and look for that thing. Where would you look for that?
Well, with me, because I've been doing it so long, and I've got a reputation for doing, classic genre to cutting edge sort of electronic stuff. It's not like I'm out there looking for a particular sound. So one example, and it brings in Jazz Refreshed as well. So I was at Cheltenham Jazz Festival last year, and I was looking after Hiatus Coyote, and I was looking after Tony Monreal, and there was a band playing in their multimedia area. They didn't have a major gig on, they were just in the back, and I was blown away by them. They were amazing, and they had that sort of Hiatus sound, and they're called Pocket Dragon. And so I ended up chatting to them, and I just said, look, let's work together. And a year later we are, and we got them on Love Supreme, we've got them on Jazz Offenders playlist like we did with you, and we've got them on back at Cheltenham again. And there's various things that they've increased their profile, but that was from just me walking in a room, hearing it. Well, I'm not that sort of guy who thinks like, oh my God, what can I do? What can I do? I go with my own gut. I run a label. I agree, I have nowhere near the talent that you guys have, but I'm not trying to pretend to be that guy. It's about communication. I know a lot of people at the BBC. I've spent 20 years getting to know those people. So, we can't as individuals do everything. So it's like we can't collect the rubbish in the morning, put it, take our kids. We need people to help us. And I think as artists, I think you can do an awful lot for yourselves, and I'm very much a supporter of that. And I think you should be involved in booking your own shows and everything. But you get to a certain point where suddenly you do need an agent to start booking shows for you. You do need, possibly you need a manager to go, you know what, I'll take over the administrative side and help get you into some of these label meetings. Not that they're the be all and end all, but maybe we have to go through a smaller label to get to a bigger label. But get that strategy in place. Not all artists are very good at that stuff. But it's possible. Of course, it's possible. It's possible artists can drive the whole thing and that's why so many artists come to me direct, you know. So yeah.
Sorry, thank you for the answer. I've got one more now. Shut up. Okay. So the other thing that the undercurrent of what I'm hearing Cindy say essentially is there's a lack of diversity within the panel of people who
make the decision. So my argument is that as much as Chris is talking about that, he may be representing a very homogenic representation. Whilst he may see himself as an individual, and he is. I may not see it that way. Remember I told you I was angry and I was motivated by anger, so you have to take that on the chin when I'm talking. So for me, when we talk about diversity, no, I don't see that in the BBC, and I've been to the BBC a few times and I've been to all these places. I'm saying that we need to start to devalue these mediums, and social media is a perfect example of us empowering our own network. Look, you know, some of you may or may not know if you're into social media, Black Twitter, you know, the Black Net. We've got a very powerful force at the moment where, you know, if certain things are said, I've woken up at 1 o'clock in the morning and seen a tweet about Beyonce, and you know, within like 6 hours, it's become internationally viral. We need to start to reclaim this. This goes back to the old school when, white wealthy execs who started to see the power of NWA and Public Enemy and the whole crew were going into the basketball courts and flooding, you know, the kids with Nike, you know, the latest trainers and whatnot, because they could see that, you know, many of these indigenous minority groups had a power that they didn't understand, of how if we put a level of cool on something, black cool has been a constant in this game. And I'm saying that we now have mediums to address that, and as much, and yeah, we can court the BBC, because actually I do love Auntie, with respect. I pay my licence fee because I do love. No, truth. I'm, you know, Holby City every Tuesday night. The reality, but on a serious note, you know, we need to start to address what we have. We need to put a value. We can't just keep saying, oh, you know, if we do this, then maybe, you know, someone on Radio 2 might play us.
Yeah, so how about then looking at approaching and actually finding key influencers that actually likes what you do within your
tiny NPR. I don't know who owns that. They could, you know, it's not about the race, but look at these guys. These guys are doing more for independent music at the moment. There are so many mediums. I'm saying that we now have the tools to have a multimedia platform. You know, you can buy very basic apps now to access yourself in design, in tech, and create platforms to do exactly what we're talking about. And that's where I'm at. I'm actually in the process of trying to do a blog called There Is Only Now, shameless plug, where every single one, including Chris, who's a bad boy, because he's one of the few good men in the game, where we can promote this. We can promote this. So that's what I'm about. So sorry.
I think, but I just want to say, I think that's really good, and I think all this stuff is excellent. And I think it's not an either or. It's not a you do this and not the BBC. But I mean, I personally have been a strong campaigner within the BBC to get Radio 2, especially to start playing more soul music, more reggae music, and they've responded. A guy called Jeff Smith, who runs the playlist there, he's a big fan of music of black origin, and he has spent, you know, the problem is that there is politics at the BBC. It's like an oil tanker. It's not easy to change things, but things are changing, and like Barack Obama said, you have to bend the flow of history slowly towards you. It's not always an instant thing, you know, and that's you know, one thing to think about anyway. But yeah, it can be frustrating. The journey can be very frustrating.
Can I say one?
Yeah.
Before we move on to some questions, because I'll forget what you said. Just to come, the first thing that I wanted to say something on was on the Spotify thing. I know a lot of people are really against Spotify, but I've spoken to a lot of artists that are doing a lot of different things. You know, been touring with Thundercat and Flying Lotus and Kamasi Washington, and a lot of people that are doing really well and coming up now. And if you speak to those people, they will say they don't have a problem with it because they're doing very well. They still sell records, they sell their vinyl, they do their tours, they make it happen. And so it's about adjusting to how the world is now and using it to our own advantage. We're all on Spotify, and we're happy to be, you know?
I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
No,
oh, okay.
It's a choice. Why is that? Well,
so I am putting my stuff on Spotify via an aggregator that I want to use.
okay.
So, but my choice first was partly ignorance, because I use it quite a lot myself, but I wanted to have control of my music. And so I felt that at that point I didn't necessarily think that my demographic was on Spotify. And so I felt, you know what, actually, I work really hard and I pay a lot of money towards recording and writing music. So I wanted to decide, this is how many times you can stream my song a day, but also encourage people at the same time to actually buy the track and decide, now you can have it for free and you can actually download it. So I felt that I was more in control over my new album. And I think that's maybe gonna keep doing it, that I won't release my new album until 2 months after it's released. I'm gonna release it first on Bandcamp and then on Spotify. But you know, I'm constantly learning myself as an artist, because I don't know half about, you know, the online music services that are out there and what happens. It's moving so rapidly, and so it's really interesting to kind of hear other people's approaches too.
Can I just finish about this as well? About the Spotify thing, because yes, I just wanted to say that I've met a lot of people that they've managed to overcome these things that can be hindrances in this day and age, and make a really good career out of music. And so I think that there are ways, and a lot of the people that are doing well now are really alternative people that are coming through because the people ask for it and they'll hear a little taste and they go, we like that. The people that choose the playlists, they might not even be able to understand that music, but the people have the chance to choose what they want now. And I think that that's, it's all a positive thing. So there are actually lots of progressions. Me, myself, what I would say about some of the, you know, blocks that I've encountered, like just a kind of general, quick summary of those blocks. I would say that people like myself, for example, that I work with a lot of well-known acts and I'm associated with people. I've been around and everybody thinks that I'm really busy all the time and I'm really rich and famous, and I'm just kind of like sitting at home doing nothing, trying to scrape by. Really? No, I'm not even joking. I think that it's because we don't know how things work. And so in my situation, I might be hanging around with all these people, working with them. I don't know how they're making. When Chris is talking about all of how he's made, I don't know any of this stuff. I don't know how they make the acts successful and how the label works. I know the people, but I don't sit down and go, tell me everything. Do you know what I mean? So I'm completely ignorant. I don't know. That's one thing. And then I think that there is, when we talk about colour and race and things like that, in my own experience, it reflects more to sound. So I think that if you don't have a very identifiable sound that fits in a style or a category, especially if you're not American, because American, you know, black American music, they are the originators of those styles. So even if you're black, British, white, mixed, whatever, and you're doing something American, people don't know how to box you and they can't quite understand it. Which is why in America, it's always white soul singers that do really well. British white soul, they love like the British white soul singers because they can connect to it, like Adele and all of them, you know, Ed Sheeran and all of that. So I think that it's not all, in my experience, it's not all about race. There is a lot of, you know, racial politics in music, but I think it's a lot about people identifying with the sound along with the look and things like that. And I think that that's one of the hindrances I feel that I've found, that I feel maybe that I wouldn't know where I belong or how I could be understood and things like that. So I think that a lot of the problem is people's own lack of knowledge, lack of knowing where to go. We need people to help us. Maybe like the ideas Cindy's coming up with. I'm kind of at a point in my life where I'm just like, I don't care about any of it anymore. I'm only miserable if I can't do music, like actually create and be inspired and play, and if I can't pay my way every month. That's all I care about now, because it's become to a point where I don't care now anymore about trying to talk to the right people and become successful.
That's probably where you'll find your success. That's all. That's the truth. I don't know if we want to let someone else that we have.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Well, thank you to all of you. This is really, really, really cool. My name is Juliana Yazbek. I'm also a singer, songwriter, musician, and I just wanted to add to what you were saying. In that, when you are chasing a bigger entity or a corporation, especially if you're already not within that box, which basically if you're already not white, inevitably it's going to change your art. Inevitably it will affect your core, your racial identity, your artistic identity. And some people are like, oh, this isn't about race, we're not really talking. For us, it's all about race. And it's always about race. Even if I'm writing a love song, I'm not white. That's how it is. So I think the moment that as an artist you really truly eliminate seeking that, that's when you find your empowerment and your own voice. It no longer matters. It's like if I said my dream is to win an Oscar, I would still be knocking on a white door and I would still need white permission to let me in there. But if I can eliminate that from my creative process and from my identity, that's where I found empowerment. And the funny thing is, once I came to that realization about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, and I just made music that I wanted to make, I automatically attracted a niche, but super strong, super solid audience.
Here's the thing. Every single white taste, I'm sorry, you should never have invited me to do this. That's the truth. I said to Cecilia, I said, we all love black music on this panel, that's the truth. So, to not talk about race would be disingenuous, okay? So, but I do hear what you're saying, and I will try to touch on it if I remember. But the reality is that it's so integral to the discussion when we're talking about the foundations, the cadence of black music, when we talk about soul, jazz, funk, certain electronica, certain house, that to kind of ignore that, to me, is kind of problematic. And no one's done that particularly. I just want to echo that. I had something to say, but I slightly lost my train of thought in my passion. So you can interject there.
One thing I'll just interject with it is my son, he's into music, and he's into music, and the way he listens to music and the way he gets to where he wants to get to is because I introduced him. He was into sort of rock stuff, and then I played him some Disclosure stuff, and then he started telling me about, have you heard Earth, Wind and Fire? Have you heard Robert Glasper? Have you heard? And the point was, he wasn't going, and I'm not discounting anything you're saying, I'm just saying this is a kid just listening to music, and he's not, the race thing is, I get it, and I'm not trying to, ignore it. I'm just trying to say that people listen to music, and the influences of black music influence, whatever you want to call them, it's just good music. It hits the soul. It makes us,
This is what I wanted to say. Sorry, I remembered. Every single white tastemaker in the industry, be it Rodigan, be it Giles, who I love with absolute respect, be it a number of the white tastemakers in all the particular black genres that have made it. They probably, and I know some of their stories, I know how Giles kind of inherited, Paul Murphy's records. There's a whole load of different versions of stories of how people came to make it. I can honestly tell you as a DJ and someone that loves music and has listened to many of the stories, the vast majority of them, if not all of them, had to walk into our party, we let them in the dance. You understand? There's a saying, like you hear it on Twitter, can we let him in the barbecue? Can we let her in the barbecue? It's a little joke that you may already know, where we're like, you can come into our family affair because you're so cool, you've got the swag, you've got the swagger. And this is the thing, we have the barbecue, we have the people, we have the dancers, we have the content. My constant issue with this is that we have spent a lot of time congratulating those who have been invited to the party to then come and dictate the party. There's a well-known, very controversial discussion about Rodigan and Sir Coxon actually calling him up about somebody else. It wasn't David Rodigan, to be fair, suggesting he was the godfather of reggae. Well, of course, it went up in arms purely not because Rodigan said he was the godfather of reggae, and we know he didn't. But it was time and time again, we're seeing that Elvis repetition of, who is going to be given the kudos of this sound? Who is going to be given the kudos of this content? And I'm simply saying that we need to, as a creative people, start to hold on to a bit more of our content and invite Radio 1 into our dance, invite the BBC into our dance. That's all I'm saying. Absolutely, we can share. They can have a seat at the table, but we set the table. This is where I'm coming from.
And that's amazing. And I think maybe that is the way forward. And
that's for women as well. Women in the music industry.
Absolutely. But I also think that, as Heidi said, as a community, and then we set the table. And then we start inviting people that we think are the right people to hear the stuff. Do you know?
Absolutely.
And
that's how you can then start building on getting
maybe what we can do is have Cindy be the taster. Whatever she recommends.
But that's the way it does work. It does work that way around.
But how many black women are in these industries? I mean, it's shameful. I mean, funny enough, forget about black people, black men have a bit of a stake, but women in the music industry, Clara Manfo, no. That's why I'm so angry, Chris. I'm angry.
No, I understand.
Do you understand why I'm angry?
I understand. Okay. But listen to what I said earlier about the whole bending history slow. And I know it's frustrating, but I'm just telling you reality as someone who goes into the BBC a lot. There's an awful lot more diversity at the BBC now than there was 10 years ago, and there was 10 years before that. Things are getting better. It's not perfect, and there's a long way to go, but they didn't shut down the BBC Asian network, they didn't shut down Six Music, they didn't shut down areas of the BBC that weren't making money, and they are backing areas, and they are... Again, it's not a perfect organisation, but it's a damn sight better than commercial radio and commercial organisations which don't represent it.
Both of those, the Asian Network and both of them was through protest, was from people like me angry. You understand? So you need us. You need people like me, the grassroots, being angry.
I'm not denying that. I'm just telling you that it is getting more diverse. It's not.
I wouldn't say he's guys like you. I would say he's more the middleman representing you in there and me in there. And I think that he actually, without people like him, things would be in a lot worse shape.
I agree.
But I also don't think we need to talk in this way. I think it's good to be conscious of it, and it's good. It's not you. I don't think. I think it's great. It's great, but I think you can be. I think you can go into it. Most of the successful artists of all different backgrounds are successful because they all share that drive and passion, and they're willing to communicate with lots of different people and network and see beyond the issues. I'm not saying they're not there, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying there is a lot you can break through. And you said it earlier, Thundercat. I've been watching Thundercat for 5-6 years, and they're now crossed over and doing really well, but they've not sold out. They're just finding a bigger audience.
We're talking about American artists.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Okay, so now I do want to break away. I totally understand, and I think it's a valid point, absolutely, that race is and prejudice within the music industry, definitely. Can we just get some other people involved in the discussion? Justin.
Hi. Not quite sure what the question is to me.
Okay, so maybe what you can touch on, because Just Refreshed are actually an actor on the independent music scene that has just created ripples over the, you've been active for what, 14 years? 14 years. And I would say, at least you've always promoted amazing music, great artists, a great vibe. It's like a family. And we're talking about community and how coming together as communities, we can actually change, and put people out there that are amazing and should get a lot of attention. So could you just please maybe give us some feedback on how you guys have done it and what's your thinking behind everything?
Yeah, this kind of touches on a lot of things that have been said before. But when we started, we came from a different background. We were like hip-hop, broken beat, other kind of music. And Jazz Refresh is a way for us to play records because we like jazz. Then we put on the live aspect, and till now that's what's happened. Sorry, my voice is going a bit. But I think there's two things that kind of stuck with us. And one is the kind of having a goal as to why you're doing something. And that goes for artists, that goes for anything. Why are you doing it? When we started the first 12 years of Jazz Refresh, me and myself and Adam literally paid out of our pockets. We lost money, hemorrhaged money. And there were weeks where 5, 10 people would turn up, but we continued to do it because we kind of selfishly enjoyed watching the bands we were watching. We picked the bands, there was no kind of fillers. And we just had a vision of a space for artists, particularly in the jazz world, who were not receiving love in the jazz world. And I know it's a kind of long game, and something I can't guarantee for everybody that everything will work out in the end. But for us, we're seeing artists that were not accepted for what they're doing now becoming the biggest things in jazz. These artists that everybody's embracing in the jazz world weren't embraced, 10 years ago. We're seeing Shabaka fly, we're seeing Moses Boyd, all these people fly. But a few years ago, these artists would have been pushed to play a particular type of jazz or to be a particular type of way. So you kind of stick to your guns in that way. I think the community aspect for us, and I know, Cindy's a big advocate of this, is the kind of support. And, support for artists, but support for the community leaders, the people who create these events, the people. I think that's how you break away from, we're a record label as well, but there's like, 3 people in an office, kind of thing. But the way to break away and with the opportunities that are there is to gather support from the base. And that means kind of convincing people who, first your peers, then their peers, and their peers, to support these different cultural institutions like United 80, like Jazz Refresh, like all these different things, because what happens then is that these kind of organic organizations grow. And we've had our kind of discussions with major labels and I know people see them as a devil. For us, we kind of see them as almost big machines, like you said, oil tankers, that change is behind them. They're falling behind. So these things, the days of, like you saying, the artists are now doing everything, because the days of artists, there are certain artists at the high end who will get everything done for them. But a lot of labels, I'm not going to call names, even the kind of middle to upper, are like, bring me your product and we'll put it out, or you pay us to put it out. And there's a lot more freedom and opportunities than artists realise. For us, we've moved into other different areas, touring and band development, because I think at that early stage, when especially the artists we deal with, they go to conservatoires and stuff, they learn their instrument, which is fine, but they don't learn anything about how to conduct themselves, how to get gigs, and how to self-manage until they do come to a point where they might, they will need a manager. And that's something we're working on, is trying to, knowledge is power, and giving artists knowledge. So, it's I'm trying to kind of whirlwind around a lot of the discussions you've had, but just something about Spotify. Spotify is a good example of how the industry's changed. It's a kind of double-edged sword. It's bad for artists in terms of getting paid, but you use it in a different way. You don't use it to get paid, you use it for a different way. And what we found with the music we deal with is that a lot of audience are coming to music not through genres but through playlists, because playlists often link a sound or a feeling, and then people will come across these things I mean, Richard Spaven, on our first release, artist release after our compilation, he did a tune on his 5 that was, it was a bonus track, and Grand Theft Auto, Rockstar Games took it up. Now there's like, how many hundreds of thousands of hits of people, oh, did you come here because of Grand Theft Auto? You know, so there is, you know, there are these opportunities that are there, and these platforms are used in different ways. I mean, I know artists who won't even do CDs because they think they're going to be ripped and put online because it's so outdated in their mind. But I think we're in exciting times, and I think, you know, new models, new ways of working. I think these are the ways forward, and you know, it's the majors. I think they need a wake-up call. I mean, to be honest, for us, majors mean nothing to us. If one of our artists goes on to be a major and get success through that, that's fine. But to touch on majors, too many times I've seen artists sign, get changed, which I never understand. Why would you sign an artist who does a particular thing and they disappear?
Well, why would you, as an artist, have a great concept and then change?
Yeah.
Just because someone tells you to.
Well, yeah, I mean, we see certain artists that we worked with and they're an X Factor, and we're like, okay. And you know, I guess it's their opportunity to try and make it. I'm not going to knock them for doing that.
No.
You know, it hurts me to see artists that they couldn't make it any other way. But also, one last thing is success. What does success mean? Because I think we look at success at the high end, we think that's success. You know, if you're not played on Radio 1, or if you're not this thing, but making a living out of doing something you love and living, be able to pay your mortgage and, you know, have holidays or whatever. That is success, reaching the audience that you need to reach, because there may be a thing where your music is just not for everybody, you know. So I think we have to think about what success means, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I think it's a very, very, very sexy voice. It's a very, 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 very sexy voice. It's a very important point what you just said about what does success mean. I mean, people ask me every time I do a gig, why don't you go on X Factor? And they ask as if they pity me, like, you could be really good if it... And people really don't understand that, you know, people like us, we genuinely don't want to go on it. It's not because we think that we couldn't get on it or haven't been offered, you know what I mean? And I think it's very important as musicians. Ambition is so hyped up, and success is so hyped up. It's not the most important thing in music. The most important thing in music is to be connected to music and to live, put everything, all your love into the music and have a relationship with the music. And that's what's important. That's success, and that's where you find happiness. The rest you won't. I mean, I'm not successful, so I can't say, but I don't believe that's where you find happiness. I believe you find happiness through music. And you know, before I did mention this, that I don't know much about the industry, although I'm involved and work in the industry, I don't know much about it. I'm kind of like notoriously under-ambitious and don't really try very hard at anything, but I can say I try hard at the music, and I'm immersed in that. That's my life. And the success is not the important thing, that's the success. And if you could make a living out of doing that as well, as Justin said, just surviving, being able to live and have a nice, decent lifestyle, which doesn't need to be, you know, eccentric or wasteful, but a nice, decent lifestyle where you're happy and you can survive, and you're living being a musician, that's success, and I agree with that. So maybe, you know, the whole premise of this is a whole different aspect on it. Maybe people need to stop trying to be something else. I mean, what's so great about these silly heights that we're trying to
and
keep?
Also I think Justin really pointed out, you know, if I remember you actually contacted me when I still lived in Sweden, and you offered me a gig, and that was my way into the UK scene. You know, without you guys, I probably would have gone to a couple of jam sessions and stuff. But it's about those kind of initiatives, you know. And I think it's amazing, and I think you're very right in that sense. Every freaking gig I do, I sing from my heart. I don't give a shit if there's 2 people in a shitty bar.
I'm gonna sing because I love music so much that that's the only thing that matters. Yeah, and then I do want to succeed or whatever. I want to make a living out of music, so I need to strategically think about, okay, I've made a great album, I'm gonna call Chris because Chris gonna get me on Jazz FM, and Jazz FM gonna play my music so that Nick books me. Do you know? So yes, there is strategies that we have to consider, or I want to consider. But it's about finding those great key players that actually that goes with, you know, that understands you and your music and your passion and all of this. Yes.
I just want to say one other thing about Jazz Refreshed again. Like when Justin was talking about examples of playing there for 5 people 10 years ago, and you know, Adam still paying the money out of his own pocket. I've done gigs like that where there were only 5 people at Jazz Refreshed, and obviously you still love it, but it's not as pleasing. But it's another measure of success. You know, playing a room for 1,000 people is only successful if the room is full. It's not successful if there's only 500 people in the room, because then you have a room that's actually half empty. So what we're trying to do is play gigs where it's full, and then that's a success. So, you know, when last time I played Jazz Refreshed, or one of the good times, there was 100 people there, and that was an achievement. So I felt I filled the room, sold out a gig. It's a small gig, but you have 100 people there, and that's an achievement. I mean, that gives a great opportunity for any artist to be seen by a lot of people. And yeah, Jazz Refresh and nights like that. And I think that people need to think like that as well, not to try to do something too big and then fail. Do something smaller and succeed on that.
I just want to say, actually, I'm not the big guy, by the way. I'm quite a small operation. I'm a tiny company, and I'm a bit like a little boutique hotel that you want to go to. It's not the Hilton or anything like that. And my aim is not Radio 1 or that's it, or Radio 2 or that's it. My aim is to represent music. I agree with everything what Justin said. I agree with everything about the community spirit, and that's where I've signed a lot of my artists from. And you know, I'm just a small cog in this big industry. All I would say is that it's important for all of us as artists, as promoters, as agents, whatever, to learn the industry and learn how it works and understand the way it works and understand the different mechanisms and all that sort of stuff, because it will stand you in good stead. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to, and also it's your income doesn't just come from record sales. Back in the day, in the 70s, they used to lose money touring to make money on their records. Now it's, you know, your income streams are multifaceted now. There's so many areas that you make your money from, and it's important to understand the business. It's quite a complex business, but you know, you reward yourself by understanding it and not denying yourself that knowledge in all its.
How can we get more people like us to be more enlightened about that? How can we as a community help each other?
Ceci's doing this right now. You're Facebooking live. Ceci's done this session, the Fika Session. This happens. Cecilia, you know, you're asking all these questions. How? We're sitting in this wonderful members club in Soho with, you know, 30 people of stature and good standing, sit here discussing these things. So whilst you may have said, oh, I'm just a mere wonderful vocalist, you put this on, and this is exactly what I'm emphasising about DIY culture. If every single one of you was to do something similar to this, then that's job done. It's about the small ripples. I mean, everyone has kind of agreed to that. You know, well, before we had our shop, it was a question of doing market stalls. You know, £25 on a Saturday, get some music, ask my mate at Soul Jazz, can we get a few records, and we'll see how it goes. You know, and then a couple of years later, you see you with some friends and you can have a shop. That's what it's about. So you guys are doing exactly the very thing you're kind of questioning. What, you know, especially you. What can we do? You're doing it. There's someone watching here somewhere in the world who is inspired by what you're doing today, Sue.
Yeah.